Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Sasha Reed, and today I've got a fun little simple tutorial to share with you on how to make a quite quick and easy card using what you have at home. I'm going to give you various ideas of what you can use if you haven't got what I've got, and I'll share with you things that you can do to find other ways and uses to find the resources that you could use. I've also got a couple other cards towards the end in which I step up this design and share with you a bit more of a complex way of making the cards as well, just in case you've got more craft supplies and you want to make it a bit more unique. So to get started, you are going to need a few bits of supplies. I've got this little bag here, which is kind of a bag of punch outs that I've made. It's got, balloons, flowers, all kinds of various little bits of punch outs that I've got, elements that I've saved that people have given me as well. Just a nice little useful random mix of things. So I've got that. If you got something like that, pull that out. If you haven't, get out a magazine. You could cut out some embellishments out of there. There are lots of online printable papers that you could find, background papers. These butterflies I got for free online. They're free printable. I'll try and find that for you and put it in the description box. But you could print out these butterflies, cut them out by hand. There's a lot of ways to get some embellishments made with what you've got. You need something to cut your paper with. A paper trimmer is really handy. Scissors will also do, and I'll share with you how to do that. You need some kind of adhesive. I like to have glue, liquid glue, as well as this glue stick. The Scotch glue stick is my all-time favorite kind of glue stick. And then I've got some card bases. These are from Lime Tree Craft. They're 300 GSM thickness card, and I love that shop. I've also got some cardstock that matches my paper. Again, you could make your own papers. You don't need to have a paper pad like this. You could draw, you could doodle, you could stamp. You can print them out of the internet. So I've got these bits of paper, and I've picked a card that matches the designs that I want to use from the paper pads. This is a pastel one. I got this from the Works for £3 when it was open. It's got a nice little selection, and I plan to use the black and white papers from there. This paper pad I picked up from Every Craft's a Pound. Another one of my all-time favorite shops. Was £1 for this 8x8 paper pad. Absolutely cracking bargain, and I love the colors of it. So to get started, we're going to need to pick out some sheets of paper. We're going to need 3 designs, and you kind of want them all to coordinate for this to work as a nice smooth design. So I'm just picking out the designs I like. They obviously all go together as the one paper pad. These are your measurements. However, I do change this. I am slightly incorrect in my length of my measurements. So they're going to be 1-inch strips of design paper by 3.5 inches long, I believe. Yes, 3.5 inches long. I did originally 3 inches, and I just felt like it looked a bit funny on the card, and I'll show you that in a minute. So what you're going to do is you're going to trim, if you've got a paper trimmer, at the 1-inch mark, and then at 3.5, or the other way around, doesn't really matter. Again, make sure you're looking at your paper design, the design on your paper. Make sure that you're not cutting it the wrong way so that it looks a bit awkward. So here you can see I changed my measurement from 3 to 3.5, making the outside one 3 3/4 for your outside layer. So 1.25 by 3 3/4 is going to be your next measurement. So I'm just cutting my strip again to make sure that it's the better length. It seems to fit the card better, which you'll see here in a second. So you're going to cut 3 bits of cardstock. So here's my original one. It just gave me a huge bottom space, and I didn't want that much space on my card. You will need 3 of these strips to go on the front of your card, and ideally you could do all the same pattern, but I wanted 3 different patterns, so I'm just cutting them up here, and then I'll be able to move on to my backing pieces and cut those as well. I've slowed this down. Originally I had it quite a bit faster, and I felt like I couldn't keep up when I was doing my voiceover, so I'm sorry it's a little bit slow, but it gives you the chance to kind of follow along if you're a beginner as well. So here are my 3 strips that I've got, and that's literally all you need. You just need a tiny bit of paper. Now here's my background paper, and I am going to just cut it so that it's just slightly bigger than those top pieces so that I can mount them on top. Now, if you haven't got a paper trimmer, this is how you can do it. You get your ruler out, and you're going to measure at the 1 inch mark, and I'd measure at the top and the bottom and make a little mark with my pencil. Then I take my ruler and I draw along those 2 marks, and just draw a line down it. Now, it's all fine because it's pencil, so you can erase it if you don't cut it straight. Then take your scissors, cut along that line, and you've got your 1 inch strip of paper. So it really doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to have a paper trimmer. It's not necessary. Now, the next step then is to measure it at 3.5 inches long, and then just snip it. I don't think it needs to be exact. I mean, my cutting's always a bit wonky, but it doesn't really matter. Now, the nice trick when you do it like this is that you can then just glue it straight onto your card and just cut around it and get the border that you want, whatever thickness of border that you want. So you're not having to measure loads. This is kind of my cheap method. I just stick it down and then I just trim around. So I give the border on the top and the side that I want, and then I just cut the rest of the border out with my scissors. So as you can tell, my cutting's a little wonky. But that's how you can make these strips if you have not got a paper trimmer. So my next step then is to obviously adhere them all down on top of each other, and I just kind of line up the 2 or 3 edges and then stick it down. And I do this on all 3 strips of paper. Again, if you're finding this a little bit boring, I'm sorry, I'm trying to cater to all the people that might just be beginning and getting started, and so I really want this to be an encouraging video as well. So we're going to stick those strips down and then you're ready to go. Now, if you have not got a tea ruler, I suggest it is the most wise investment you'll probably ever make. You can get them for about £1, maybe £2. They're really cheap to get. You can get them on AliExpress. I just find it helps so much to line up things and get a nice straight edge. Otherwise, I find when I put these strips down, they kind of go up, down, and all over the place. So I put my tea ruler down. The tea ruler lines up against one of the sides of your cardstock, and then it gives you a nice straight line because it goes against that nice straight edge on the left. So I do my outside rectangles first so that I can get that middle one nice and straight in the middle. Now I've got this bit of scrap copy paper down. When I use a glue stick, I tend to get the glue everywhere. So I like to make sure that I've got a little bit of scrap paper that I can put the glue on so I don't end up getting the glue on my card, because inevitably I just start gluing wherever I'm working, as you can see right now. So having a bit of scrap paper there is really helpful as well to make sure that you don't get glue everywhere on your project. But again, as I said, a glue stick is absolutely perfect for this project. Now, the next step is going to be where we add our little sentiment. All I did here was I went onto Microsoft Word, I typed out happy birthday and tried a whole bunch of different font sizes, and I liked the biggest one the best. And that is all I have done to get a sentiment for this card. You don't need to have a stamp, you don't need to have dies. It's awesome if you do, but you don't need to. You can use your printer and make the most of what you've got at home. You could handwrite it as well if you wanted. Now I wanted to stick the sentiment on, but I wanted it to kind of stand out a bit. So what I thought I would do was get my, I was just showing you there, you could also make it stand out by adding it on the back of some of that card as well. But I thought what I would do is get out my foam dots and stick some of the foam dots on the back so that it kind of pops off the card just a little bit and gives a little bit more interest to that happy birthday sentiment. Next up is our embellishment. So again, as I said before, you could use whatever you've got. You could print things out, you cut them out. Those butterflies are gorgeous. Here I've just gone through my box and found some stuff that I thought would match, would look good. That flower there is a punch that I made. I took an old book and just punched out a flower out of the old book pages. And buttons. I have so many buttons. I love buttons, and I love buttons on the top of a flower. So here I am just taking this flower and trying to make it have a little bit more character. So all I'm doing is pinching the leaves together, or the petals I should say, pinching them together to give them a bit more dimension, to make them kind of pop a bit more like that bottom flower, which was a pre-bought flower. It came already like that. And what I do is I use liquid glue for this bit just because I find it a little bit easier to work with flowers. And this is the other craft glue that I've got. It's a Tonic glue. That came from Every Craft's a Pound. It's £1 in their shop and it is fantastic liquid glue. The white one I'm using is the slightly more expensive, slightly more fancy glue, but it does the same job. So I've got my little embellishment all ready to go. A little bit of glue on the back and stick it down on the front. Now for my buttons, I decided on that one specific color, but I have got some glue dots. These are from AliExpress from Alina Crafts shop. You can get them in the pound shop. A lot of places sell them. I really like sticking buttons down with glue dots. They're just really sticky and quick and easy. You could at this point add some twine through your button loops and make it a little bit more dimensional. You could add a twine bow, but this is the end of your card. So I hope that was fun for you. This is our next model up. This is using some stamps. These stamps are from Alina Cuddle on AliExpress. I've got some VersaFine black onyx ink. And all I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment first. This helps me gauge where to put my strips and how much space I might need for that little embellishment. So I'm going to stamp directly to the card. Again, you could do what we did before. You could stamp onto an extra bit of card and then pop it up with some dimension. This one's quite a bit more sped up, just so that it's not so boring for you. I've got these flowers, which I got from AliExpress. I absolutely love them. They all come with matching jewels and gems in the center. And I thought a black flower on my black and white card would look quite nice. So again, all I do is add a little bit of liquid glue onto the back of that, stick it down, and there's our finished card. So nice, quick and easy, slightly more stepped up as you've got stamps and more detailed embellishments to add on. So our next version, we're going to take it up another step. As you can see, I've added a background layer to the back of the card. I've also layered up my strips on a bit of a thinner white card, so it's just got a very mild border. I've got some dies from Alina Cuddle on AliExpress, and these dies are sort of banner strip dies. I've got the whole set. I really like them. They're quite handy to have. You get 3 different sizes, and you can layer them on top of each other, but they are the exact same length. So if you layer them on top of each other, you've got to sort of trim down one of the ends, which I'll show you in a minute. I've got this stamp set from her shop as well, and I've chosen On Your Special Day for a birthday card. So I'm going to run my dies through my Big Shot, and I'm going to cut it out in white card so I can stamp my sentiment down. And I'm also going to run it out of the designer paper as well to kind of back my little banner. So I've chosen another bit of that designer paper that's more of a sort of neutral pattern, I guess you could say. So next up, you're going to stamp. I've got this lovely lipstick, which is the same color as my cardstock, and I am going to stamp it on. Now, when I have a new stamp, and it's one of these slightly cheaper versions, so it's not a photopolymer, it's more of I'll put it on the screen. You need to kind of rough it up a little bit sometimes to get that ink to stick. So that's what I've done there. I've used one of my sand erasers and just kind of roughed it up so that that ink sticks really nicely to it and I get a perfectly clear little sentiment. So now I'm just going to adhere it on to my strip, and I'm going to use some foam strips again to kind of make it pop up off the bottom one. And I'm just bearing in mind that I don't want to take my foam all the way to the edge because I'm going to cut that little edge off, because I'm going to stick down my banner and line it up so that it's got a bit of the banner showing all the way around the smaller banner, which then means the top one, because it's the same length, sticks over the edge. So I'm just going to trim that off, and then the banner matches that card perfectly. These are some embellishments that I got from AliExpress really recently. I love them. They're all super glittery and really cute. So I thought I wanted to use one of these on the card. So I'm just giving you a little share with what came in the pack. I ordered the mixed bundle. I'll link these down below as well. And I decided to go with the owl in the end because I love that little bit of pink matched my card. So when I go to stick him on, I'm just using my liquid glue. It's quite a strong liquid glue. And I'm putting a bit extra on because I found that the felt on the back was absorbing the glue quite quickly. So I did put quite a lot on just because it seemed to be sucking it in really nicely. And I wanted my embellishment to stick. So I popped him there on the bottom corner. And then I added some liquid glue to the back of my banner and stuck that along the bottom. as well. So the next thing I thought I wanted to do was to add a little bit extra. And so I've got my glitter pen. This is my DIY Wink of Stella pen that I've made up. I will link the tutorial down below and stick it at the end of the video. I've made my own little formula to make my own Wink of Stella, and these Arteza pens are brilliant to hold in. So I just decided to add some Wink of Stella to the middle section here on these flower petals. It's a bit hard to see, but when you tilt the card, it's really pretty and it sparkles really, really nicely. So if you can see in that one flower, quite a bit of sparkle comes out. Then I've got these Nouveau Drops. These actually happen to be glow in the dark, which is quite fun. But I just wanted some yellow dots to kind of tie in with the yellow on the paper. So Nouveau Drops are amazing because when you put them down, they stay rounded like a dome. They don't go flat when they dry. They dry rounded, so they look like little dimensional embellishments. And that finishes off my last card. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you have a go. I will link my Facebook group down below. Please pop over and join us over there and share your makes with us. Thank you so much. Happy crafting, stay in and stay safe. Bye.